Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Todd Duplantis. I'm the director of HCC TV Communications, and I will be your MC this morning. We're very excited to see many of you in person. In fact, we're all here in person. Let's give yourselves a hand. First time we've been doing this in a while, huh? We're also very pleased to be bringing this to others remotely via a live stream from here at the auditorium at the Central College. In today's program, you'll hear from our board chair, chancellor, and faculty senate president, and our students speak about the program's theme, Building a Resilient Tomorrow Today. We'll hear about that and what it means and what it looks like here at HCC. Now, with that, I'm honored to welcome our first speaker, HCC's board chair. Please welcome Dr. Cynthia Lenton-Gary.
Thank you, Todd. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday break. Most importantly, I hope you were able to spend time with your family and friends and just relax a bit. We're so honored to welcome our faculty and staff to our Spring 2022 Convocation. On behalf of the entire Board of Trustees, I want to let everyone know how grateful we are to Chancellor Maldonado, the leadership team, faculty, and staff for your commitment and unwavering dedication to our students, especially during these unprecedented times. There are many outcomes from which our institution should take great pride, from faculty achievements and growing partnerships with our communities to supporting and celebrating our students' success. There's a lot to be grateful for, despite the challenges we've all faced these last couple of years. I want to take a moment to acknowledge my fellow trustees who contribute to the advancement of our great institution and the greater Houston community. Vice Chair Monica Reichart-Flores, District 1, Secretary Eva Laredo, District 8. I think Eva is present. Would you stand, please? Thank you. Dr. Adriana Tamez, District 3. Dr. Reagan Flowers, District 4. Robert Glaser, District 5. Dave Wilson, District 6. And Dr. Prieta Vendible Stallworth. I'm going to take the time and give my fellow trustees a hand. Thank you guys for the work that you do. While the COVID-19 pandemic has changed so many things in our world and city, one thing remains the same, and that is resilience of the HCC family. We will continue to work together to navigate the future and anything it throws at us. We will do whatever it takes to ensure the success of each student we serve and support the needs of our city. On behalf of my fellow trustees, thank you again for your commitment and dedication to Houston Community College.
Thank you, Trustee Lenton-Gary. And thank you for your service this year as the board chair. We're also very happy to welcome the HCC Foundation board members who are here today. For the board members for the foundation, please stand. We're very grateful for you helping to raise critical funds to support our students. Thank you for your service. I also want to thank each member of the Chancellor's Executive Council who are here as well. Please stand, the Executive Council. We want to thank you for your ongoing support and your important mission. You know, student success remains a major pillar of everything we do here at HCC, and we love to feature the success of our students and the impact of their time with the college. Today we'll learn about 3 HCC students from across the college through a series of highlighted videos produced by the HCC TV team. You might recognize some of these students from our ongoing enrollment campaign, which features real HC students and alumni. With that, let's take a look at the first one. Let's hear the story of Alberta Rollins.
Going to HCC, you have like a really good social life, and that's kind of like a misconception that people don't realize. You meet people and you can just start your own clubs and study groups. It's pretty cool. It helped me be more open and be social, and granted, like, I went to a modeling school when I was 12, so I have had the social experiences early on, but as an adult, you know, I'm very introverted. So being at HCC, like meeting so many different people that I've never met, it was kind of like an eye-opener that when I'm outside of college and when I'm done with this, there's going to be jobs where I still have to get to know people that I know nothing about. Me building a career, working on it for myself, with the help of HCC, like giving me, I'm graduating this summer. So after that, I will have the ability to actually have something stable while I build up my future, like media jobs and communication jobs. So that's what I'm going to be doing with my degree once I'm done. But in the meantime, I'm going to be working for myself. So just the freedom to do what I want to do.
Very inspirational story. Let's hear it for Alberta Rollins. You'll see a few more of those. Our next speaker has a rich, diverse background and extensive experience in both industry and academia. Dr. Scott Tenenbaum is the president and co-founder of the Group for Organizational Effectiveness, a consulting firm that's provided advice, tools, and training to more than 500 organizations globally, including over 30 Fortune 100 companies and numerous government and military organizations. Formerly an award-winning tenured professor at the Business School at the University of Albany in New York, he holds a PhD in industrial organizational psychology, a recognized expert on training, change management, and team effectiveness. Dr. Tenenbaum has over 175 publications and professional presentations. He has written books on knowledge management and human resource technologies and has reviewed for 20 professional journals. His research has received awards from the National Academy of Management, the American Society for Training and Development, the Journal of Small Group Research, and Emerald Management Reviews. He was named a Fellow of the Society of Industrial and Organizational Psychologists and was given their Distinguished Professional Contributions Award, and that was for his lifetime achievements. Last year, Dr. Tenenbaum and the Group for Organizational Effectiveness helped HCC conduct an internal cultural assessment of opportunities, strengths, and weaknesses to better inform our strategy and operations moving forward. This assessment has yielded a plethora of insightful and valuable results that he will present to you all today. Please welcome to the stage and to our live stream, Dr. Scott Tenenbaum.
Thank you, Todd, and good morning, everyone. I realized in listening to the bio, the one important piece of information that was missing there is I started my career as a community college graduate, great launching point. So hearing the student video is just a reminder to me about how HCC and community colleges can be a great place to start careers. So as you heard, we were brought in to work with HCC in the last year, and what I'd like to do this morning is provide you with an overview. There'll be a little bit of details, some data, but what do we learn from conducting this work culture assessment that we were asked to do? I'll highlight some of the positives, some of the great things that are going on here, and I'll also highlight where there's some opportunities for continuing to improve the work environment. Now, before I begin, I just want you to glance at these quotes. And the two takeaways from these quotes, and we got over 1,500 written comments from people on the survey, so for those of you that participated and provided your input, thank you very much. But the two real takeaways here is input is valued, that's what we heard from you, but it's only valued if we do something with it. I'm sure in your career at some point you've done a survey and felt it didn't go anyplace. I think there's an awareness that there's really useful information here, and having had the chance now to work a bit with the leadership team, I get a sense there's a commitment to take what you shared and implement some actions specifically based on what you told them. So when we were brought in, the idea was for us to take a look at the workplace culture. And of course, workplace culture has implications for students, it has implications for the community, but our specific focus in the survey was on the workplace itself. And we wanted to learn, how are we doing? How are we doing globally across the entire system? How are we doing in specific areas in HCC, specific roles and jobs, with the intent to say, how can we be sure that we are a great place to work? The only way that we can attain kind of the goals that we're looking for HCC is if we have a great workforce, and that requires a great place to work. Now, I use the term workplace culture a bit, and I suspect many of you have heard that term before, but what do I really mean when I say workplace culture? Well, culture is really based on how you perceive things and things you believe. And what that means is that sometimes some of those things are accurate and on target. Some of them may be misperceptions, but in either case, it matters, because how we perceive things and what we believe influences the extent to which we're engaged at work, perform effectively, and whether we want to continue to work someplace or not. Now, culture is influenced by things that the organization does. So organizational practices, the things that leaders do, those send signals to you about what's valued and what's important and how things get done around here. We know from the research that organizations can have subcultures. So you can have an overall culture and there can be pockets. I'll share with you now, we didn't see a lot of subcultures here in the research that we did. And the last thing I want to share with you before I go into results is to let you know that culture is not easy to change. So it's not as simple as flipping a switch. But I think what you'll hear is some targeted areas in which attention will be given, and that over time this will continue to be even a better place than you have today. We approached this in two phases. The first was just for us to get grounded, and we had a chance to talk to the trustees, to the leadership, and we wanted to be clear about the expectations for this and the commitment. But then we designed and conducted an assessment. Again, many of you I know completed the survey on this. And we had the chance to share the results with the board and with the leadership team. And the leadership team has taken what you've shared, and you'll hear from Dr. Izzy Anderson after I present on some of the things that are already underway based on what you told us. Now, I want you to see this figure, if you will. This guided the work that we did. So let me start on the left here, and you see those kind of red boxes. Those are the areas of the work culture that we heard were important and that research says makes a difference. So just think about this for a second. If I'm working someplace where I identify and believe in the purpose of the institution, which I think is easy in an organization like this, if I see it a place where people are being treated equitably, where we have what we like to call psychological safety, which simply means you can be genuine and show up and be yourself at work. If this is a place where diversity is valued, where our expectations and roles are clear, where we're holding one another accountable, we're collaborating not just within our teams, but collaborating across our teams and across our campuses, we feel a sense of empowerment, we're equipped to be able to be successful, and there's opportunities to grow and develop, I think you would agree with me, that's a great work culture. So we looked at those sorts of things. We asked questions about how managers are handling these things, practices, and what's valued. And we also looked at some other factors, like work-life balance, how performance appraisal is working, how compensation practices are working, and of course remote work, since we've been living in a COVID environment. The belief was that the more we perceive these things, the more likely we perceive HCC as a great place to work. And what do I mean by that? A great place to work is a place where I feel inspired, and I want to continue working here. And I'm willing to recommend this place to others, not just for education, right, but to recommend it to others as a place to work, where I'm confident I can do my job well and I'm proud of working here. Collectively, that's what we mean by a great place to work. And what we found in our research is that all the factors that you see on the left in this figure, the red boxes, the gold boxes, were positively correlated to perceptions of a great place to work. So the key is, let's make sure we get these work culture factors humming. Now, I told you I'm going to get into some details here, and I want to be able to share with you what we've learned. I'll tell you a bit about who participated in the survey. I'll share with you the overall results across the system. And I'll also share with you some subgroup findings, right? Different pockets, different groups in the organization. I'll wrap up with 7 areas that we identified that are targeted opportunities to focus on workplace culture. And again, you'll hear Dr. Anderson talk about some of the things that leadership is already doing in response to this. Now, over 1,200 people completed the survey. As I mentioned before, 1,500 write-in comments. That's great because that's an indication that you cared and want to provide your input. If you take a look here, you'll see it's a distribution of folks, faculty and staff, full-time and part-time, supervisors and non-supervisors, and different ethnic groups represented in a pattern pretty similar to what we have on campuses. We also got a distribution of responses from the different divisions, whether those are campuses or other functions at HCC, fairly representative of what we have in the workplace. So what I want to share with you here is what we found in terms of strengths and areas of opportunity. And as I go through this, just keep in mind your responses were based on a 5-point scale, with 5 being strongly agree and 1 being strongly disagree. So we considered anything where the average responses were 4.2 or above as a strength, and anything that was 3.5 or below as an opportunity. The overall average across all the items was about 3.8. So let's start first with that right side of the figure that you saw, those items that relate to whether you perceive this as a great place to work or not. 96% of you said you were confident in being able to do your job well. 2% disagreed with that statement. 2% were neither agree nor disagree. But as you glance down this list, you'll see over 80% are proud to work here, about 80% inspired. Little over 3/4 see themselves continuing to work here in a couple of years. That's really important because we know there's talented people here, and it's important that we are able to retain those talented people. 70% said it's a great place to work, and just under 70% said it's a place that they would recommend to others. I would describe this as a very solid foundation. We do work in a lot of organizations. I know many organizations would be happy to have results like this, but it's also not the end point. There's things that can be even better. I'll also share with you that there were no meaningful differences across these great place to work items in the various subgroups that we studied. Few differences across divisions, which we've shared with the divisions, so they can use it to make some local action plans as well. So let me share with you some strengths. I would say the results tell us right away that HCC is a good place to work. Now, we want to go from good to great, and I think that's feasible, but currently it's a good place to work. One nice strength is that managers were perceived as being effective at being able to build trust and lead teams. So these solid manager behaviors, this was true across the system. It was even true with managers of managers, which I think is a great foundation point. You have a strong sense of purpose. HCC serves a really important role in the community, and I think that's recognized. So people found work meaningful that they're doing, they believe in HCC, and they understand the ways that they're able to contribute to the mission and the purpose. And as I noted earlier, proud to work here is also part of this sense of purpose. Finally, employees were confident that they could do their job well, and when we asked them about remote work, they said, yep, we also feel pretty confident that the things we've been asked to do remotely, we've been able to do pretty well. So if you look on the right of this figure, it says a couple of things to me. First, it says, let's continue to build on that strength of our managers. I know in your career, some of you have worked for great managers, some of you have worked for less great managers. You know the difference. So having strong managers really makes a big difference. We want to continue to take advantage of the fact that there's a great mission here that we all believe in. And I'll also share with you an aside, which was we learned that perceptions of how the institution responded to some of the COVID challenges was pretty positive. But like all organizations, all the organizations that I'm working with, there's a need to establish a clear hybrid work strategy. And I'll say a couple of words about that in a moment. On the opportunity side, there's a perception that we can do a better job here at cross-area cooperation. What do I mean by that? Well, the results were really strong in terms of my managers doing a good job of encouraging us to collaborate, and we have pretty good collaboration within our team. Where the opportunity resides is to collaborate more effectively across teams, across groups, across campuses, and actions needed to be able to make that happen. There's a perception there's opportunities for us to do a better job of career progression and helping people grow and learn. We know that in the practice areas of compensation and performance appraisal, there's opportunities for improvement there. And the good news is that while overall diversity is generally valued and managers are treating employees from different backgrounds in a respectful, equitable way, there's room for improvement there as well. Room for improvement in terms of equitable work assignments and responding to potential perceptions of bias. Finally, a recognition that we need to keep people better informed. You know, two-way communications, learning more, so the feedback from the survey was great. And I want to encourage you, I'll say this a couple of times, any chance you have going forward to participate in something where maybe it's a culture lab or an incubator or a follow-up survey, please raise your hand and provide input. And then what needs to happen is the institution sharing what they've learned like we're doing today. Now, we also looked at various subgroups. The differences, for example, by gender, tenure, and we looked for differences to see if those subgroups are the same or they have different perceptions. When I say differences, we had two things that needed to be in place for us to consider it a meaningful difference. One, for those of you that are researchers, there needs to be a statistical difference. But sometimes with a sample size this large, you can have a very small difference on a scale and it will be statistically significant but not meaningful. So we also wanted to make sure there was practical significance. So anything I'm reporting here that's a difference, qualified in both those. Now, first of all, let me just say right up front where there's not differences. No differences in perceptions on gender, or how long people have been at the institution, or between faculty and staff. There were no differences across the board on whether people perceive this to be a great place to work. That was kind of a pretty consistent response, meaning, again, one culture rather than subcultures. There were some small differences by divisions that I alluded to earlier, and there were some small differences between full-time and part-time faculty, and between supervisors and non-supervisors, and ethnicity, and I'll briefly share those with you. On full-time versus part-time faculty, in general, part-time employees had a slightly more positive perception than full-time employees, with part-time staff showing the most positive perceptions of any of the respondents. The perceptions of the part-time faculty were very similar to the full-time faculty. You heard in my background, I was a faculty member, so it's interesting to me to see similar perceptions between those two groups. And then on the supervisor, non-supervisor difference, supervisors were a little bit more concerned about performance appraisal and compensation than non-supervisors. I think that's because they're not only affected by it, right? They are evaluated and compensated, but they also have to use the performance appraisal system to manage their teams. They had slightly lower perceptions of things like role clarity and accountability, and they were slightly less likely to see themselves at HCC in a few years. These differences are relatively small, though. Finally, in the area of ethnicity, we compared differences between employees, Asian, Black, Hispanic, and white ethnicity. No differences with regard to perceptions of collaboration, empowerment, psychological safety, purpose, accountability, role clarity, whether they're respected or not. However, Black employees did perceive somewhat lower diversity, in particular responding to possible bias, and some growth and equity opportunities. Again, the results are small, but it's worth keeping an eye on that as we go forward. So as a result of all this, we talked with leadership about the how and the what of creating a great workplace. And again, you heard in my bio, I work with a lot of organizations, and the real key is there a receptivity to this? And my perception is leadership has taken this very seriously and is already taking actions against it. But the how here is to view this systemically and to put some mechanisms in place to ensure there's opportunities for ongoing empowerment, input, shared governance. You'll hear some of this perhaps from, and to ensure that there's two-way communications going forward. All those red boxes were important, but we identified 7 areas that were probably particularly worthy of attention. First is in the career progress and growth opportunities. And the question here is, how can HCC create and better communicate opportunities for growth and progression? I can tell you that in most organizations, the ability to be able to move up in your career is not as large as it was 10, 15 years ago. That's normal. But how can we have lateral and in-position growth and development opportunities? Second is with regard to compensation. And it makes sense to periodically examine where you are in the marketplace. All organizations need to do this to be able to maintain talent. The third is the performance review process. I don't know a single organization that's not struggling with how they do performance reviews. So it's thinking about how we can handle the performance review process. How is it helping or hindering your growth as employees? How is it helping or hindering our accountability? And how are we doing this in a way that fosters inclusiveness? So the question here is, what can we do to improve the process? And how can we perhaps improve training for people who deliver performance appraisal? On the diversity and equity front, it's how can we ensure that HCC is both being responsive and being seen as responsive when there's potential bias. Both those are important. And finally, how can we ensure assignments and opportunities are assigned equitably to everybody throughout the system? I alluded to collaboration. So it's figuring out where are the greatest needs for collaboration. Where, when we bring people together from various parts of the system, can we get a multiplier effect? And how can we cut through any barriers to collaboration that can interfere with the student experience? I alluded to this remote hybrid work previously. And it's really important for your institution to think about it strategically, like all organizations are. I'm doing work with Microsoft right now. Microsoft believes the future of work is hybrid. They're building products for that, and they're still trying to figure out their strategy around it. So the one thing I will tell you is, please be open to attempts. More than likely, your first attempt at hybrid strategy will need to be adjusted, but I know that leadership is thinking about this, and it's one thing you do need to be able to get right to have the right type of culture going forward. More opportunities for being able to have two-way communication. And I just want to wrap up by saying I really do appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with your organization around this. The people we work with have been great. I think there's some really great opportunities, and I'm encouraged by the response that we've seen to the survey so far. And at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Izzy Anderson, who will be the next presenter.
Many thanks to Dr. Tenenbaum for joining us today and sharing his insights. Now to share an update on how we're addressing the next steps, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Izzy Anderson, our interim Chief HR Officer here at HCC. Dr. Anderson.
Good morning. I was worried when they unmute my mic, you guys are going to hear my heart beating. I'm so excited. It is an honor to stand before you as your interim CHRO, and also on behalf of Dr. Kurt Ewan, Chief of Staff and Vice Chancellor of Strategy, Planning, and Institutional Effectiveness, regarding the communication you received on Wednesday from him. And this communication, he's entrusted me to share more details about this communication and to deliver his message in his place, so I certainly hope to do it justice. So let me say again, thank you, Dr. Tenenbaum, for your presentation. You have helped us see more clearly the opportunity before us to transform the Houston Community College from a good place to work into a great place to work and thrive. That opportunity certainly depends on each of us, employees and colleagues, participating in open, transparent conversations and lending individual voices to discussions where we can express our needs and views on issues that we're facing as a college. Each of us has been given that opportunity. As I mentioned on Wednesday, you received a message from Dr. Ewan to volunteer for one of the 3 culture labs that will begin in March. And I think we're going to have a nice visual here for you today. As Dr. Tenenbaum said, a culture lab is a working group that is formed to deeply explore issues and needs. The group would typically clarify the need or the pain point, gather relevant perspectives, and also generate initial ideas for addressing the need. A culture lab is not a decision-making group, which is important to note, but rather input, exploratory, and ideation group, right? So not so much pressure. And it's an awesome opportunity for all of you guys to pull up a chair and give us your best ideas. 3 immediate issues that we have identified for Culture Lab exploration are career progression and growth, performance appraisals, and hybrid work of the future. In the email I mentioned, you were given a link, a web page, where you can better understand what each of these Culture Labs will be addressing. And the page also provides a short form where you can sign up to participate. So members of these culture labs will be selected at random, and if you are not selected, please don't lose heart. There are so many opportunities to provide input to these groups, as well as participate in other culture labs in the near future. Trust me, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and boy, do we want to hear from each of you. The deadline to sign up is February 28th, and so please go to the link and sign up today while it's fresh on your mind. In fact, I should probably just pause so that all of you can take out your phone and sign up. Yes? All right. Once again, thank you, Dr. Tenenbaum, for all the work that you've shared with us. And I also want to thank each of you in advance for the good work that I know you will help us accomplish to make HCC a great place to work.
HCC was like the perfect fit because I had the ability to try a lot of things. They have programs in world language that I wanted to do, and they have programs in everything pretty much. I was really impressed by their engagement with the students, and they reach out to you for everything and let you know what's going on. My experience at HCC has been exciting and fun. Exciting because I'm in a new place, and fun because, like I said, the people there get engaged with the students a lot more than other schools. The education at HCC that I'm getting personally is, I think, top-notch, and that's one of the reasons I moved here is because I saw that what they teach is on a very high level. I even moved here from another state because HCC allowed me to make that comfortable transition and offer me state-of-the-art classes at the same time. HCC has really helped me for my future because it allows me to easily transfer to another school if I want to, or I have the option to make a smooth transition into the workforce from HCC.
That was Sam Bowie. Okay, the theme of today's program is Building a Resilient Tomorrow Today. Here to speak more on this theme and HCC's most recent achievements, please welcome our Chancellor, Dr. Cesar Maldonado.
Good morning. It's great to see everyone in person. You know, this is a figurative renaissance where we're coming out of this hibernation and sleep to really open up the new chapter to HCC. Now before I start, I want to thank Dr. Tannenbaum again for his presentation and for the outstanding work that he and his team are doing on behalf of the college, and Izzy and the leadership team for crafting our responses to your feedback and to make sure that we continue to hold ourselves accountable for acting on making HCC a great place to work. For the assessments, and the results are going to help us get there. So stay tuned for more continuing dialogue on that, and we will become a great place to work. Now, today's theme is building a resilient tomorrow today. Because of the floods, the hurricanes, the power grid failures, the pandemic disruptions that we've had these past few years, I've spent a good amount of time thinking about resiliency and what does that mean to an institution. Through a time when we've all been asked and encouraged to power through and overcome, and I've said that message to all of you, we can do this. But this word resiliency keeps coming back, and it's now part of our nomenclature. It's inescapable. When we think about resiliency, though, we really think about what it embodies. Preparedness, endurance, sustainability. Those are three words. There's many more that we can add to that, but it goes beyond the burst of effort in a moment in time. It goes beyond a sprint. It's a marathon that takes us to a state of readiness and allows us to persist beyond our normal ability. Now, marathon runners train and train and eventually undergo a fascinating transformation where their physical stamina increases. But more importantly, it elevates their self-awareness, what they can do from the inside, situational awareness, what's going on around them that can affect their performance, and mental acuity to bring all that together. At the end of the day, resiliency is about three things. One, understanding the environment. That's what I call situational awareness. Two, building adaptability, which I call self-awareness. Know your strength and what you can do to pivot. And three, responding proportionally. And that's contextual awareness. How do you respond in a situation with your abilities? Over the last few years, HCC has proven its institutional resiliency in so many ways. You all have been part of that. And if you look at our history, back 50 years and into the forward, like that marathon runner, our situational awareness and contextual understanding, knowing our job in our communities, empowers us with relevant responses for students and the communities that we serve. So before I go any further, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone at HCC who contributed to our institution's great resiliency. We had it coming into the pandemic, we just didn't talk about it. And it would be an understatement to say that our board, our faculty and staff have gone beyond and over the last 2 years. Not only that, but our students, they've gone through a great deal of in their personal lives and in their academic pursuits, all impacted by the pandemic. I think I can say that this has not been easy for any of us. It has been a difficult journey. We all face challenges, But together we were able to work collaboratively, come together, and focus on student success, overcoming the obstacles that were coming at us. And without your training and adapting across the entire system, as one college, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I want to thank all of you for that commitment and that performance. I also want to thank the HCC Foundation, an integral part of the college, without whom so many students would not have been able to gain the knowledge and skills that they need to build their own resilience to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow. In fact, the HCC Foundation provided more than $5 million for HCC student success while generating more than $10 million in income the last fiscal year. Our shared values between the college and the foundation are really what fuels our relationship and the relationship that we have with our industry partners, expanding those relationships to include PepsiCo, Wells Fargo, Siemens Digital, Apple, and many, many more. I'm very proud of the strong relationship that we have with the HCC Foundation, and I'm excited about our collaboration to increase support for our students, even beyond the phenomenal job that's being done today. And I want to extend a special welcome and appreciation to the foundation, board members who are here today. You please stand and be recognized. Thank you. And I particularly want to express my appreciation for our HCC employees who have generously supported our efforts year after year with personal contributions to the annual faculty and staff campaign. We all give of our time and efforts on the job and our talents, but your personal giving to the foundation is greatly appreciated and it's meaningful. And most importantly, it leads to supporting students. Now, incidentally, HCC employees donated more than $142,000 during the 2021 campaign. Because of the source of these contributions, this figure represents a lot more than a dollar amount. It speaks to the heart of who we are as an HCC family, as one college. Eagles helping Eagles to support students and colleagues that are in need. The foundation welcomes donations year-round to help our students, and you can learn more at hccs.edu/allin for HCC. Go there today. Thank you for all your support and all that you do for students, personally and through contributions. Again, congratulations to everyone at HCC who made this success possible. Because of your hard work, dedication, and grit during these challenging times, HCC has been able to keep its forward momentum. And lastly, we look forward to celebrating HCC achievements and raising even more money to support students at the HCC Foundation 2022 Gala celebration on Saturday, May the 14th. This will be the first time in 4 years that the foundation is reconvening for an in-person gala. It will be a wonderful event to celebrate the work of the foundation, student success, and a community partner and benefactor, Jim Mattress Mac McInvale. And don't forget to join and support the upcoming Black History Gala next Thursday, February 24th. We look forward to seeing you. That's an online event. Now, we've talked a lot about innovation, forward thinking, and what that looks like at HCC. I started out talking about resiliency in that term. What does that look like at HCC as an organization? Well, one example that comes to mind is the HCC Resiliency Operations Center, or the ROC for short. In recent years, catastrophic natural disasters have frequently impacted our community and our nation. Safety professionals and first responders need a facility where they can train under simulated conditions with the intent of mitigating future deaths and harm from life-threatening circumstances. The Rock, a state-of-the-art training facility, will be located at Houston Community College's Northeast College, Caldwell campus. But it will have a positive impact across the greater Houston area, the state of Texas, and arguably the nation, allowing first responders to enhance their skills and confidence in creating a preparedness that saves lives under controlled conditions so they're not risking their lives to train. I also believe that real-life simulations of catastrophic events and the use of technology tools will give the Rock a global appeal that will attract first responders to come to our facility to train. But beyond this important resource for first responders, we must continue to imagine what resiliency can bring about today and in the future. Personally, I think it would be a disservice to the students and the communities that we serve if we look at education as something that's static, unchanging. We've learned differently recently, haven't we? We simply cannot afford to remain static or do things the same way we did them before the pandemic. We must examine the need for our students and determine what's best for them now and in the future. Importantly, we must continue to build on our existing model based on organizational learning that propels us far beyond the resistance that we see to the new normal. To build a more resilient college, first, we need to understand our environment. We need to be aware of the current situation. And to do this, we need to let go of the past, the way things used to be. This is situational awareness. You know, today, approximately 60% of our students, 60% of HCC students are taking 100% of their courses online. That's a staggering number. And if you'd have said that to each other in 2019 before the pandemic, you'd have said to each other that you're crazy. Not going to happen. But this is our reality. This is where we are today. And we got there because we adapted. We weren't static. This is our current reality. And if you haven't yet, we need to change the way we define normal. What can the new normal be? Because it will be shifting, and we need to shift with it. We need to be abundant thinkers and develop novel solutions to the emerging challenges that we face. They'll be changing every semester. And we know that prior to the pandemic, our creative strategies were working. One indicator, first-time student graduation rates were steadily increasing since 2013. Now, the pandemic has turned that here recently, but we know what to do to return that upward trend. We've been there before. It's tougher this time. Through a collaborative effort, we understand our contextual situation. We have that contextual awareness. An appropriate response, the Quality Enhancement Plan, the QEP. It is a carefully designed and focused course of action that addresses student success over the next 5 years. It provides a holistic, individualized support for students throughout their journey, through their initial interest in HCC, their program enrollment, through their award completion, future employment, combined with continuing education, lifelong learning. We want those students to be part of HCC for the rest of their lives. Now, this means personalized learning. We've been doing this in bits and pieces and spots, but now we're bringing it together under the QEP. Personalized learning pathways are built on understanding of the dynamic goals and challenges of our students and of faculty and of student support. But these are represented and captured in HCC personas that will give us a framework with which to respond. It drives faculty and staff engagement to personalize the student experience. We're doing this now, and we can do it at scale. We know how to do it. In fact, other institutions from across the country are contacting us, seeking guidance from us on how to do what we're doing. Secondly, we need to be adaptable. I call this self-awareness. As we become aware of the impact from the changing environment, we need to continuously adapt and expand our abilities, like marathon runners. Now, so much has happened over the last couple of years that sometimes it's hard to believe that it's only been 2 years. Seems like forever. Our ability to adapt, to pivot, and transform the way that we serve our students has enabled us to be resilient. That pivoting, that change, is part of resiliency. As you all know, we've done a lot to adapt to the realities of this pandemic. A lot of work that's gone into the change that you've brought forward. We've had a situational awareness, individually and collectively as a team. In fact, HCC received a STAR Award from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board last year in recognition of our efforts to enhance student experience and quickly pivot operations during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I want to thank each one of you for that. To achieve our goals during the pandemic, we launched Next Learning, a new approach to education that provides various in-person and online formats combined that allows safe, flexible learning options for our students. We completely redesigned student and instructional support services to ensure that students still had access to the support they needed to succeed. Both virtually and in person, that support has been provided. In response to the community needs, we mobilized the college's resources and led efforts to join numerous educational institutions, public school districts, entrepreneurial organizations, and community groups to help address personal protective equipment shortages in medical professions in the area. That collaborative effort, known as H-Force, is a comprehensive community partnership bringing together members' resources, technologies, and expertise into one group. Let's not let those things go backward. Let's not lose that success, those wins that we had when we were under pressure. Let's keep those partnerships and that dialogue going with our colleagues, with industry, with healthcare. We also need to continue the creativity and spirit of adaptation that we use to create those partnerships. Why would we stop? Why would we give up all of those creative solutions that we develop? Now, thirdly, we need to respond appropriately. Not overreact, but answer the problem that's brought to us. This is what I call contextual awareness. Now, here's an example. In our predominantly digital world, it can be hard to make real connections with students and with the people with whom we work. It can feel awkward trying to set up a meeting with someone just to talk about some work environment, some work issues, where in the past our proximity and our daily interactions allowed this to grow organically. We didn't have to do anything special to keep the communication going with our colleagues and with students. But now, as we realize that things will never go back to the way they were, we need to pivot to embrace a hybrid work environment, hybrid teaching, and consciously make an effort to reach out and connect. Now more than ever, it's important that we do that. You know, if any of you have maintained relationships with your college friends, it's hard work to keep a friendship going when they don't live next door to you. And that's what we're asking you to do. That's part of our new environment. It's work to stay together. we need to continue the successes that we've experienced. Now, last year, we officially launched our internal culture initiative, Mosaic and Me. Mosaic and Me is designed to encourage engagement around our foundational cultural elements. Most important are our 5 core values: commitment to collaborate, devotion to service, empower to trust, impassion to learn, drive to innovate. And to accomplish those, we need to rely on the things that Dr. Tannenbaum brought us earlier, what Izzy talked about. We've got to get moving on those elements in order for these values to be meaningful. Now, this year, we're focusing on the first of the 5 elements: commitment to collaborate. I believe engaging around this value is so important now more than ever for some of the same reasons I've just mentioned. Our Mosaic and Me culture champions, also known as swoopsters, are working on engaging events to bring this to life in the coming months. It's not going to be something that we meet on, talk about, and then go back to our normal work environment. It's something that we're going to embed in everything we do at HCC. And I want to thank Dr. Ewan for spearheading this important effort, and I want to thank the swoopsters for their volunteering and their commitment of time and energy. We also continue to create connections through our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and achievements. As you all know, last year we welcomed Dr. Donna Davis, our first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. Now, since she arrived at HCC, we've continued to make important strides in this critical area. Now, this includes establishment of community partnerships with Fort Bend ISD, the Asian Chamber of Commerce, and the PepsiCo Foundation, as well as implementation of unconscious bias training for employees. We all play a role in DEI. We all play a part in creating the vibrant, welcoming, and inclusive environment that shows a commitment to collaborate. That's the first of the values that we're going to focus on this year, the commitment to collaborate. We need to celebrate our victories. One more point I want to make is if you bring together everything I've been talking about and the results that Dr. Tannenbaum presented and the initiatives that Izzy Anderson talked about, combine all those into the organization that we are, we have a lot to celebrate. And we need to find the fun again that's kind of been lost over the pandemic. We need to embrace positivity. We can do these things. We have done them. It's important for all of us to find joy and excitement where we can. We spend a lot of time at work, and there's so many good things going on. Allow yourself to dream again at work about what we could be. Resiliency is all about that. Resiliency gets you to the future. There's no better time than today to imagine and take control of your future, of the institution's future, and make it what it could be. We all need something to focus on, something to do, whether it's our career, have hobbies, or passions. And we need someone to love, to share in our life's ups and downs, whether that's a family member, a friend, a colleague, a parent, a sibling. It's important to connect during good times and bad. We need that. We all need something to hope for. Why be resilient if it doesn't end in a better place for us? We need something to dream about, something to inspire us, to explore the future, to be the future. To that end, there are so many things we should be celebrating here at HCC. I want you to remember that. When you leave today, when you're walking in the halls throughout the semester, remember that. From the new and expanding programs and the evolving partnerships that we have and the increase in support that we're getting from industry, to the student achievement. Every day, we should celebrate wins. We need to embrace positivity and really see all the great things that we're doing to help students in the community, even when it feels difficult to do so. I believe this part is not only critical for our institutional success, but in fact, it's necessary for our mental health. However, after all this talk of resiliency, I must acknowledge this, that we're all tired. We've been dealing with the effects of fatigue for some time. It's all driven by the pandemic. It's driven by change that brings anxiety in our lives. And while being adaptable and flexible is important, it can also be exhausting. I understand that. But I want to acknowledge that what we do here at HCC is hard work. From the outside looking in, that might not look like it, but we know it is. And again, I want to thank all of you for your ongoing commitment to the institution, and more importantly, to our students and the community that depends on us to help them frame their future, to help them with their resiliency. It's not easy, but when we do it purposefully, strategically, and together as one college, we design something great. Thank you for being part of greatness. The next part of today's program is a video from our Chief of Staff and Vice Chancellor for Strategy, Planning, and Institutional Effectiveness, Dr. Kurt Ewan. Dr. Ewan has a heartfelt message and an announcement for our students and our institution.
In 1982, I graduated from high school. I was, to say the least, a very average student. That goes without saying. I mean, I was a straight C student. And I came into community college having no idea why I was there. My mother, who is a little German woman who stands about 5'2", and she has a finger wave that can power a small city. And I graduated from high school, and my mother stood there, and she was waving her finger at me, and she said, "You're either going to go to college or you're going to go in the military." My mother was an immigrant from Germany. Military is what she knew, and college, I think, is something she aspired to for my brother and I. Well, I was not going to go in the military. I think I would have been worse in the military than I was in school initially. So I went to Valencia College, which is right up the road. I could ride my bike there and motorcycle and car. The first semester, I had no idea why I was there. Anybody who teaches our students understands that very clearly. Our students often have no idea why they're there, or they come for what they think is their reason. My second semester, I took a course. This book sits in my office proudly for everyone who comes in to this day to see. This is the book that was the textbook for a philosophy course I took. This book, that professor, and my other students in that class changed the course of my life. There is nothing about me, there is nothing about the person I am today that is in any way disconnected from the person I became studying philosophy. I live that day in and day out. I ended up spending some time at University of Central Florida. I transferred to a small school in Indiana, finished a philosophy degree, spent 5.5 years in Belgium, another 8 to 10 years getting a PhD in Miami. I went from, at one point in my life, being a Catholic priest to now sitting here as the Vice Chancellor for Strategy, Planning, and Institutional Effectiveness at one of the largest community colleges in the country. And people look at me and they say, how'd you get from there to here? When I look back, I see a straight line, and that straight line starts right here. I am who I am because of that experience. And I'm convinced that we do the same thing with the students who come across our door every day. We help them discover a world they never envisioned, and we can do so much more of that if we empower faculty and college leaders to envision new ways of reaching out to students and helping them along their way. My vision had always been that at a certain point, I came to Houston as a transitional position. I knew that I was not I was a through passenger. This was not going to be my final destination. That I was going to take everything I learned here, apply everything I had learned in the past and apply it here and take that lesson somewhere else as I move into a presidency myself. In February of this year, I was diagnosed with ALS. And I got the final diagnosis by phone call, and that phone call changed my life in the sense that it put an end to those aspirations in terms of becoming a college president or chancellor somewhere. And so Houston has become my home. And this is where I'm prepared to make my stake, my future, my legacy here. And so I want to do something that would help to do that. That would work to change the course of this institution long after I'm gone. The Endowed Chair program at HCC is being built to model the one that has been built over 20 years at Valencia. We are starting out with 5 endowed chairs a year, $5,000 each. 3 of those are earmarked for faculty. 2 of them are open to, 2 of the 5 will be open to student support professionals at HCC. That's advisors, tutors, librarians, all of those things. To make sure that it covers the front lines of the people who are engaging students in their learning experience. I did more learning oftentimes outside the classroom than I did in the classroom. That's certainly a place where integration happens.
Dr. Ewan, we all so appreciate you. What is going on? And thank you for your amazing dedication to students, to the institution. I just want you to know you just did a drop the mic moment with that video. Boom. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Antrice Baget, and it is my honor and privilege to serve as the Faculty Senate President for the 2021-2022 academic year. Thank you for joining us today, whether you are here in our amazing Central College auditorium or whether you're home streaming in a warm environment, because that's where some of us want to be. Today, our theme is building a resilient tomorrow today. Resilience allows one to recover and to rebound quickly from a difficult experience. It is truly the ability to stand firmly on a foundation built on values and principles. It grants the architect, whoever you are, the ability to redirect, to envision a plan, and to harness the strength that comes out of that necessity. I'm very sure that COVID-19 is multiple variants that change every other month, as well as the hardships that each of us have experienced or encountered over the past 2.5 years, has helped to usher in a respect and an appreciation for technology and an awakening of an innovative spirit where we are reimagining most aspects of our daily lives. So let me tell you a story. Last year, I was introduced to caring leadership while I was enrolled in a DE&I course. And of course, I didn't think I was going to do that because I'm D&I, right? But what I learned is that caring leaders, like Dr. Ewan, look beyond themselves and they listen. They care more about others than they care about themselves. A caring leader has, I would say, an infectious gift of doing the right thing and creating a legacy. Today, we usher in a new season of intellectual creativity and positivity for our faculty and our student support professionals. This shift is grounded in our HCC core values. Those values are commitment to collaboration, devotion to service, empower to trust, passion to learn, and the drive to innovate. Our values are supported by 4 of our 5 strategic priorities, and most importantly, it redirects us to personalized learning pathways. The Ewing Family Endowed Chairs for Teaching and Learning Excellence are designed to support 5 distinguished educators with funds to implement a plan that they design. These endowed chairs are intended to support a hypothesis that the individual believes will improve the student learning experience at Houston Community College in their teaching and/or interactions with our students. Proposals will include the details of a plan, learning outcomes, costs, and an implementation plan. The money, $5,000, is not intended for a release time. The annual selection process will be led by our amazing Faculty Senate with the support, yes, let's give us a hand, with the support from the HCC Foundation and our talent engagement professionals. The selection committee will be comprised of faculty selected by the Faculty Senate. The student support professionals will be identified through a process still to be determined for the 2023-2024 session, as serving on the selection process does not, let me say this again, serving on the selection committee does not preclude the possibility of applying. All applications will be reviewed blindly. Now, this is the timeline. The Endowed Chair General Information Sessions will include application requirements, the discussion of sample plans, budget development, and a general question and answer period. So if you're interested, please attend these sessions. The Spring 22 sessions are slated to begin first Wednesday, February the 23rd, right around the corner. Tuesday, March the 1st, and Wednesday, March the 2nd. Now, on March the 1st, 2022, the HCC Foundation website will release the applications for the 2022-2023 cycle. Applications must be submitted by 5 o'clock Monday, on May 2nd. Let me repeat that again. Applications must be submitted by 5 p.m. Monday, May 2nd. Now, as I was standing in the back and I was listening to Dr. Ewan's video, it became really apparent that his vision is not that different from mine, and my vision is not that different from yours. We are all here to improve the lives of our students, of their families, our families, future generations, and our colleagues in general. So this is what I ask of you. Now, today, join me, please, in committing to supporting the Ewan Family Endowed Chair for Excellence in Learning. It establishes a legacy for creativity while fostering innovation in higher education. What better way? I mean this from the bottom of my heart. What better way to demonstrate caring leadership and personalized learning than to support an initiative that is greater than any one of us? It's greater than any one of us, y'all. We talk a lot about doing, so I command each one of you, let's show Kurt and his family what HCC family is really about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baget. Well, it's time for our panel discussion. I'm pleased to introduce our panel to talk about the QEP and building personalized learning pathways for students. We'd like to now allowing them to set up some chairs up here. We're going to ask our moderator to come on out, followed by our panelists. Please welcome Dr. Desmond Lewis.
Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I would like to ask our colleagues to come out and join us, and I'm so grateful for my colleagues today. Dr. Betty Fortune, Dr. Andrea Burridge, and Dr. Shante Grace. Now, before we get into things, I would like to say the following. Today, we've heard a lot from a lot of great speakers and a lot of information about cultural assessment, culture labs, resilience, and of course, Kurt and the Endowed chair. So that's all about building, as the Chancellor said, resiliency for tomorrow, today, and the things that we can do today. But all that has to do with culture. So what does it take to shift a deeply rooted culture? We oftentimes find ourselves a part of something or vehemently opposed to it, right? Developments over the recent years have done two things. They've presented us with challenges and choices. And it can sometimes seem like today's solutions become tomorrow's problems. Nonetheless, we can't sit by idle and let things just happen. Now let me ask you all a question. What if I told you that we could time travel? Now, HCC hasn't developed some new science, so I want you guys to follow with me. I'm talking about time traveling through our actions. Today, shifting culture, the culture of how we engage students and how we work with each other. The one college mindset, seeing the mosaic that is an HCC within all of us. And to me, the most important thing, fostering a sense of belonging for everyone today. Now, our discussion will be centered on three themes of the Quality Enhancement Plan: implementation, broad vision, and personas. We will try to clarify these three themes by answering the questions of the who, what, when, where, why, and how of HCC's Quality Enhancement Plan. And with that being said, I'm going to shift over to some questions about implementation. And I'll start with Dr. Fortune. Dr. Fortune, what is a Quality Enhancement Plan?
Thank you for that question, Desmond. The Quality Enhancement Plan is a part of our reaffirmation process through the SACS Accrediting Association. The purpose of the Quality Enhancement Plan is to provide us with a holistic approach to student success, looking at our shortcomings, see where our students are, and provide a more focused approach to helping students be successful in their goals and outcomes set when they enter our institution.
Okay, that's great. Now, could you remind us all, what is HCC's Quality Enhancement Plan?
Our quality enhancement is all about personalized learning pathways. The beauty of this topic is the fact that our strategic plan, our student success framework, our Texas Pathways work, our Houston GPS work are all embedded in being more personalized with our students.
Now, how did all of that come about, and could you walk us through some of the steps of its development?
The Quality Enhancement Plan provides that we have a broad-based set of information gathered throughout the institution with our internal as well as external stakeholders. We held many meetings. We actually adopted a common book that was Becoming a Student-Ready College. We had over 1,000 people reading this book, composed of students, faculty, staff, external stakeholders from business communities that we have been working with on advisory committees. And reading this textbook opened our eyes to collect lots of information about what's missing in our ability to be student ready, as opposed to students always being ready when they enter our campuses. We also had focus groups with students. We had focus groups with faculty. We had focus groups also with frontline leaders from our student service units. Listening at all of the information and gathering so much data on what our students were, what our metrics were looking like, there were two problems that were identified from this group of people. One, our system does not provide proactive information about our students' needs, and therefore we are unable to support them early. Secondly, students say that they don't get consistent information. Talking through these two problems, the big question was, what is our approach? Looking at our pathways work, our student success framework, looking at the strategic plan, it had to be personalized learning pathways, and that's where we landed.
Now, Dr. Fortune, one thing I didn't disclose at the beginning, Dr. Fortune is the co-chair of our Quality Enhancement Plan, and I'm the other co-chair, so that's why I'm up here. So what you just said, I was there through all those steps, and many of you in the audience today, whether online or sitting here physically, were also a part of that. And that process has sounded very involved. So can you tell the audience, how do you plan, or how do we plan to implement such an ambitious plan?
Well, one way we can do that is by doing what we're doing today, talking about it, sharing it out with all internal stakeholders, not just the executive council, not just our frontline people, but everyone who talks to a student, from the folks that keep the grounds, to folks that open the door to welcome our students, to folks in the classroom. Everyone who touches a student needs to hear about what personalized learning is all about, and then to own this idea of personalized learning. That is how it will get implemented, when everyone understands their role and part in getting this work done.
So one thing you just said right now prompted me to think about the following question that I'm sure each and every person in this audience is thinking. What does this have to do with what I do at the college? And can you speak in general terms of what we can expect in regards to our individual contributions?
Everyone is important to this work. Everyone should be able to take a look at what personalized learning is all about and see yourself as a picture, an intricate part of this work. You have to understand that all students don't come with the same skills. But does that mean we can't support them? Of course not. But you have to think through that when you're in your classroom standing in front of the students and you see them struggling. What can I do to support? It's what you can do as an individual to support. So yes, all of us are important to this plan. It will not be successful unless we all understand our role in this work.
Thank you so much for those answers. And as you said, when you were giving me those responses, it made me think of what the Chancellor said. We need to be more responsive and not reactive. And now that we have more information on what our quality enhancement plan is, which is personalized learning pathways, and we learned a lot about the implementation, let's talk more about the broad vision of personalized learning pathways at this time, given that it's a 5-year plan. So I'm going to ask Dr. Grace. Dr. Grace, can you tell us how personalized learning pathways connects with the broad vision of the college?
Well, thank you, Desmond. And first want to acknowledge Dr. Fortune did a great job of really weaving the story together. You heard her allude to the work that we're doing with Achieving the Dream and our Texas Pathways and our Houston Guided Pathways, but more importantly, our institution's strategic plan. Student success is one of our strategic priorities, and when you think about that, there are elements that are essential to ensuring that our students are successful. Identifying the challenges and the barriers they encounter as they're coming to us as to the organization, understanding the needs, and also their personal nuances. What's unique about each student that we serve, and how do we provide resources and support in anticipation of those things that the students will need to ensure their success. This work is far beyond those of us who are sitting in this room. The impact that we are expecting will not only benefit the students, but their families for generations to come. We're thinking about the global impact of this work. The city of Houston relies on our graduates. The city's workforce relies on having a skilled workforce. And in order to ensure that students are set up for success, we have to internalize those things that are going to be foundational. Those things like advising, personalize it, and intrusive advising, having faculty who are engaged in the learning process and who are also helping facilitate students' needs, working closely with community partners to identify additional wraparound services, because we know education and ensuring student success is much more than just students coming to a classroom and having an opportunity to meet with their advisor. It's anticipating their needs that extend beyond what the 4 walls of this institution can provide. That's really what we're anticipating as part of our broad vision.
You know, and when you started responding to the question, you said a few things that I wrote down here. Storytelling. We are telling a story that we're a part of, but it's not a story that we could just click off. We're actively involved. And you said a couple of more statements, needs versus wants. You may want to go do this, and many of us have done that before. You may want to spend money on buying something, but you need to pay the light bill. So what do you end up doing? You pay the light bill. Many of our students, when they come to us, that's what they're coming to us for, those needs. And we help them to mitigate those wants that they have, to put that in a realistic perspective for them that allow them to realize their goals. And with that being said, Dr. Grace, what are some areas where personalized learning pathways tie into some of the college's other strategic plans?
So another example is our DEI work. You heard the Chancellor reference that work and our efforts in his remarks. DEI is not just a brand or a label. It should become infectious. And if you think about our student personas, I want to be sure that we all understand this is not to categorize or stereotype a student. It is really for the benefit of those within the organization to know exactly what our students need, and then anticipate how we can better serve them. Building professional development around that work so that we're better prepared to serve our students is really what it means to become a student-ready college.
So when I heard you just mention the DEI work, how do those efforts dovetail into the personalized learning pathways? Because we know that Dr. Davis and Dr. Baskin are leading lots of work across the institution, but those DEI efforts that you mentioned a moment ago, how does that dovetail into the personalization of learning pathways for our students?
So I just shared the example of the student personas, right? But it's also understanding those unintentional bias, the unconscious bias. It's also having a real understanding of the nuances around personal lived experiences that our students come. Diversity of thought, diversity not just in those protected classes, but things that our students, particularly community college students, often bring with them. Our students are full-time parents. They are often first-generation college students, which makes their lived experiences diverse in just the way that they're coming to the organization. How do we anticipate what those needs are? How do we define the experience and clarify for not only the student, but for the faculty and staff who are preparing to teach and support these students? How do we respond and how do we engage with each other so that we're better collaborators and also working very closely to build a foundation that's firm, that allows students to see themselves beyond where they started at HCC?
Right, so I see. So as we approach this from the student life cycle, from the time they get to the college, and create those guardrails to keep students moving forward, how can we keep that momentum going? In other words, what are some of the initiatives in the not too distant future that we can look forward to that will help us realize these personal learning pathways the way that we're talking about it today?
You know, I will say that while this work, you heard Dr. Fortune again mention it's everyone's role. I will say, and I want to recognize the work of faculty and our advisors who are at the front line of the student experience. We've done a lot of work in student services. We're part of the Excellence in Academic Advising Cohort 2. I want to recognize the hard work of all of our contributors in that work. It has now become foundational to improving our advising experience. We are also examining how do we become more intrusive, and intrusive by providing holistic support. So upskilling our advisors, providing them the professional development they need so that they can better anticipate students' needs. We're implementing the College Student Inventory, which is for the first time in this institution's history, allowing us to administer this assessment as students are coming to the college. That inventory allows us to identify risks, to help identify potential barriers, and also address those barriers by providing, again, other supplemental resources like access to tutoring, referring those individuals to peer groups, engaging them in student organizations where they have a sense of building a community and a sense of belonging and awareness of what the college can provide.
Right. So when we take a hard look at our own selves in the mirror, sometimes it's difficult to really be objective. But when we look towards the future state of the college, we can't help but to assess our current state and look at our previous states by asking questions: who attends HCC? Why do they come here? What are the challenges that prevent them from attaining their goals? And what are some of the interventions that we can do to help students along those journeys? This is where the college's persona work comes into play. So at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Burridge a few questions about personas. We've all heard a lot about personas. In fact, Dr. Graves mentioned it earlier. But I'm not sure if everyone understands how HCC plans to leverage personas as a critical component of the personalized learning pathways. Can you please give us a quick snapshot of the persona work up until this point?
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. So our persona work began as we began our planning for this strategic plan and for the quality enhancement plan. We started in 2019, before the pandemic, asking our students about themselves. What are your goals at HCC? What brings you to HCC? What are your goals beyond HCC? What is your reason? We ask them about their strengths. We ask them about what keeps them going. And we ask them about their challenges. We really wanted to understand more about our students and how we could better serve them. After we heard our students' stories, we then went to our faculty and staff. And we shared what we had learned with our faculty and staff and asked, does this resonate to you? Who have we not talked to? Who have we missed? And what else do we need to ask? As the pandemic went on, we continued to talk to our students. Again, we did focus groups and we did interviews, and we asked them, how are your needs changing in the pandemic? And again, how can we serve you? And through this, we learned a couple of things. Well, we already knew that some of our students do come to us straight out of high school, but students come to us in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. You know, some students want to transfer to a four-year institution. Other ones want to reach a calling to be a police officer, a nurse. Some students want to upskill. And we realize that our students' journeys through HCC are very different, and that we need to, first of all, ask our students and talk to our students and understand what each student's goal is. But we also learned that we need to use what we learned and how we plan our programs, our policies, and our practice. So we think not just how will this impact our 18-year-old, the student we kind of all have as that stereotype in our head, but how did this affect our students broadly, and what does each student's path look like through HCC?
So it sounds like a lot of thought and research has gone into this, and I know firsthand it has. But what's next with the personas?
Well, exactly that. And right now, we're really in the first stages of implementing our persona work and integrating it into the fiber of who we are and what we do. With the college student inventory, we're going to give our students the opportunity to answer some of these questions and think about these questions with us as they come in. What brought you to HCC? What are your goals? What are your strengths? What are your challenges likely to be? And what is your receptivity toward different types of support services? How can we support you? And as we build a QEP, we're doing journey mapping. So we're thinking, what will this path look like for our 18-year-old fresh out of high school student? What will it look like for our person coming back or entering school, our first time in college student who's entering midlife with a full family? What does it look like for our person who's coming to us to upskill? And how can we make sure that these paths are accessible for each student so each student can be successful?
So let me make sure that everyone is clear. We're implementing a CSI and using other data metrics to create journey maps and other tools to better understand our students. Is that correct, Dr. Burridge?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Fortune, let me shift a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about the CSI?
The College Student Inventory is a standardized tool that we're going to be using, as Dr. Burridge has stated, to talk to our incoming students. We want to be able to glean information about what their needs are, where they think their pain points may be, how we can respond to them, and also if they are receptive to receiving that support. The purpose for this is so that we can empower our frontline folks with information. These folks will be working with these students one-on-one in their case management processes. So having this information early will allow that person to interact and intervene with the student before, as opposed to reacting when something has already occurred.
Thank you. Dr. Graves, a little bit about student services. How do you envision student services being able to integrate what we learned from the CSI and I know about the CRM work?
So I think part of where we often miss the mark with our students is failure to communicate, right? Having students be informed and be aware of the services that are available, I think is going to be essential. Not just those necessary communications, but thinking about how do we leverage technology to be much more pervasive? Do we send words of encouragement rather than just early alerts when we're notifying a student that they're failing? How do we celebrate their accomplishments? Using a CRM allows us to be much more intentional about our engagement with students. It also helps our frontline staff, as you heard Dr. Fortune mention, to see the bigger picture around the student experience. Everything about this student would be in one central place. We'd give them what I call the Amazon customer experience, where we have an opportunity to not only see what they need and where they've been prescribed certain interventions, but that also allows other individuals across the institution, may it be faculty, it could be an administrator, to also understand how the student has been engaged and what types of services have been prescribed, so that we are better informed and better prepared to respond to a student in need.
Thank you. Now, let me begin to conclude. I have 5 more questions left. Dr. Fortune, who is responsible for the Quality Enhancement Plan, Personalized Learning Pathways?
We are.
Thank you. And that's the best answer. Real simple, straight to the point. Dr. Graves, what is everyone's expected contributions to realizing the next evolution in HCC through personalized learning pathways?
I think it's going to be vitally important that we don't call it QEP, right? Personalized learning pathways is, again, a brand, but it should be an experience. So what we're thinking about is changing the culture around how we better serve students. If we anticipate what our students' needs are, then we can better be informed. We're better communicators and collaborators. It challenges us to be innovative about how we approach our work around student support. But also, it's better to understand that this is not an end game. This is just where we start. While the QEP is a 5-year project, this work will continue to go beyond my existence here at HCC, and I'm hopeful that it will have a greater impact on our students and their student success outcomes.
Thank you. And you kind of dovetailed into the next question for Dr. Burridge. When is the Quality Enhancement Plan implementation set to start, and when will it end?
Well, the Quality Enhancement Plan implementation has already started, and we are building speed as we move. Now, traditionally, a quality enhancement is a 5-year plan, but what is special about this one is it's not. It is a vision for who we are and how we will be, for being student-centered and moving from that good place to work you heard about to being that great place to work. So our personalized learning plan is an ongoing journey for us and our students.
Thank you. Dr. Fortune, where can I find more information about HCC's Quality Enhancement Plan?
Thank you, Desmond, for that question. If you are desiring, and we want you to, read the entire document. You will find it online. Type in Quality Enhancement Plan when you go to the hccs.edu webpage. The entire document is there. But in conjunction with that, Dr. Ewing and I, along with Desmond, we will be doing a road trip real soon. I don't have all the dates and times, but we'll be doing a road trip, coming out to the various campuses, sharing out more information, allowing you an opportunity to ask questions about it and to ask us how you can get involved. So that's coming real soon. But a start, it's online in the entire document. Please read it.
And speaking about it being online, we received over 70 different questions from many of you in the audience today about the QEP. We designed our answers in our conversation today to answer most of those questions, but we will also be answering those questions in more in depth and posting those answers and responses online. The next question is for Dr. Graves. Why do we need a personalized learning pathways plan?
You know, I think we often heard the stories and the nightmares around how much our students swirl, right? And included with that, it yields lower success rates. Students accumulate more debt, and it really they're no better off than when they start. Being intentional and designing an experience so that students can see the end game, so they have a clear roadmap, but not just the roadmap, but they also understand the supports that are essential to helping guide them through a point of success, I think is important. Why it's important for us as an institution is we've got to understand this work has meaning for those we're serving. The work that we do every single day is vitally important to, again, not only the students, but their families who are also impacted by their work. Generations to come. The moment that a student has an opportunity to earn a credential at HCC, it completely changes the course of the direction for them. That is the work that we're doing. Again, this is not a mantra. This is a way of life for us. We're excited about it. We're coming off the heels of a very exciting engagement last week for those of us who had an opportunity to participate in our ATD work. Again, this work is so important. It's essential that we all understand students who are engaged. And again, Dr. Fortune mentioned it. If you turn the lights on in the building, it's because you're making access and lights available for students who are coming in. If you're a groundskeeper, it's because we want students to have a welcoming environment and knowing that they have this confidence in attending campus really is essential to their success. We want them to feel confident that HCC is committed to their learning and their development and their success.
Thank you so much. And I think you kind of dovetailed and kind of answered some of the next question. How will personalized learning pathways change the way we engage our students? But I'll give Dr. Burge a second if she would like to respond to that.
I think personalized learning pathways changes the way we engage with our students because it institutionalizes a lot of the wonderful things that are already happening. When we talk to students, every single student that we talk to had stories about how our frontline staff and our faculty engage them to help them succeed at HCC and in their goals. And what our personalized learning pathways does is help us institutionalize that so that every student is served with that kind of consistency, care, and engagement.
So, thank you so much. And I would like to thank all our panelists for being here today with us. We truly appreciate your candid responses and clarifications. And I'd like to thank the audience. Whether our contribution today is small or tall, just like the word small and tall, it still includes all of us. With that said, it's up to all of us to continue to make HCC a college of choice. So please, time travel with us today. And 5 years from now, let's look back and see what we've done together. Thank you so much, and thank you especially to Dr. Vereen, Dr. Misha Turner, Myra Herrera, and Dr. Crawford. They're part of this QEP team. So again, thank you all for listening. See you next time.
Once again, thanks to our panelists and Dr. Desmond Lewis for moderating the discussion for us this morning. We're going to close out this morning with one final video. And this is another student success story you'll get a chance to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at it right now.
I was born in Pakistan, Karachi, and when I turned 19, I moved here. And yeah, it's been going pretty good since then. And then I joined HCC as well at the same time when I moved here. HCC have really good advisors. I got one advisor, it's HCC West Loop. She's been helping me for the last 2 years. Whenever I have questions, I can, communicate with them. So yeah, I decided to pursue Associate of Science that I'm completing this semester. And once I'll be done with it, I'll be taking some time and finalizing what should I pursue for my bachelor's. And HCC have different programs, I would say. They're also starting, I heard that they're starting some bachelor programs as well. So I'm in a procedure finalizing what should be my bachelor's degree. But I'm done with associate, I'm happy with it.
All right, thanks again for joining us this morning. Have a great rest of the semester.